Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another episode of What Explain. You know what? Ladies and gentlemen, that sounds a little bit formal, so I prefer to call you Explainer Nation. I'll give it a try, I'll make it stick if it kills me. But you're not here to listen to me talk, especially on this episode. You're here about my guest, who is a man of not inconsiderable musical skill, knowledge, a pleasing baritone, and absolute magnificent sound editing skills, who makes me sound just as magnificent as I possibly can be. He turns diamonds. Well, again, he basically brings in terrible things on my end and he turns them into diamonds. Ladies and gentlemen, Craig Murdock.
You know, I will make that intro a diamond once I edit it.
Again. I lost it. See, this is what he has to work with.
I was actually, when I was listening to the last couple of podcasts, I was realizing the subject matter was quite dark, and I'm starting to think the theme music needs to be slowed down and pitched down by a couple octaves to maybe suit the subject matter a bit more.
Admittedly, there's going to be some grim ones coming in. Fortunately, it's going to get grimmer.
You know, I'm happy with it. I like the grim stuff.
Good, because actually, it does occur to me, you are the person who has listened to this podcast more than anyone else. Like, not even a question. It's true that I am in a way. I'm by default the number one fan. No,
and that's a very good fun fact for all the listeners to know.
So we are bringing on the person who has listened to my voice more than potentially anyone over the last year. And he still wants to talk to me more. What a world.
Absolutely. Well, it kind of goes to show how pleasant of a man you are, Braden.
Aw, shucks. We'll put that I was just going to say there's going to be a bump up in the paycheck now. All right. Well, after that, how can I not? All right. Craig, as somebody who has listened to a bunch of this show and worked on it a bunch.
Yes.
You know that a lot of these we tend to bring in stories that we share with each other. Did you want to go first or should I?
I'll let you go first because I'm a little bit insecure about the quality of my story. So I prefer to get the audience ramped up with you, disappointed with me, and then we'll fix it in the end somehow and bring it back up.
We'll reverse the applause break. You can put in applause breaks for you, by the way. That's very much a thing that you could do.
Amazing. I'll add a supportive audience.
Craig, you're a man of not inconsiderate musical skill, knowledge, and appreciation, as you have indeed developed our theme music. Thank you again.
It's my pleasure.
So I figured that the story I bring you is a music-related one.
Oh, wow.
There we go. I'll tell you the story of a man who was right next to one of the biggest rock and roll stars of all time, who shepherded his career from his start as a singer in a rockabilly band, the Blue Moon Boys, to his death in Memphis, Tennessee. Or so he'd tell you. But I'm not going to be talking about the rock and roll star. Enough has been said about Elvis Presley. Craig, I'm going to be talking about the absolute unscrupulous maniac who managed him. Colonel Tom Parker.
Oh!
A man who in no particular order managed to wiggle his way into Presley's trust, milked him for as much money as humanly possible, and essentially ran his life until he died, and then for a couple decades after.
Yeah, and what something funny about him is like I think he had 50%, right?
Yes, he did.
Anyway, I don't want. I'm very into this history, so I don't want to take away any any tidbits.
And he was played by Tom Hanks. So that's something.
See, I didn't remember that one.
America's father, Tom Hanks,
played the Colonel.
So Parker was born as Andreas Cornelius van Kuzik in Breda, Netherlands, and worked primarily as a midway barker at carnivals in the area when he was a boy. After a brief stint in America by literally jumping off an employer's ship to make it to the United States, he returned for good in May of 1929 at the age of 19. Again, he worked in carnivals, as his main skill was pitching and selling events.
Mm-hmm.
He enlisted in the U.S. Army 3 months after he arrived, potentially to ensure consistent income and a decent room and board. He took the name Tom Parker from the same name as the officer who interviewed him, which to me seems an incredible oversight on the interviewing officer's part. Hi there, I'm Sergeant Tom Parker. Nice to meet you. And your name is? I'm also Tom Parker. Nice to meet you. What a world. Isn't that right? Yes, that's me. That's us, two Tom Parkers talking to each other. Regardless, he served 2 years at Fort Shafter in Hawaii, and then re-enlisted to serve 2 years in Fort Barrancas, Florida. And you'd think, again, that might be where the colonel came from, right? I was just going to say a long and distinguished service in the United States Army, right?
Totally.
I mean, colonel, absolutely, 100%.
Easy assessment to make.
Absolutely. I was just going to say, it's a military rank. Why would anyone just put a military rank right in there if they weren't in the military? Well, he ended up going AWOL in Florida, which is absent without leave, and when caught, he was punished with solitary confinement, which was apparently a significant enough effect on his mental health that he emerged with a significant enough psychosis that landed him in a mental hospital for 2 years and got him discharged from the army.
Wow.
So he ended up back in the Carnival Barker business because it went from Carnival Barker, Army, then back to Carnival Barker.
Naturally.
Where he stayed for another 5 years until he was offered the possibility of being a promoter for a singer named Gene Austin, like a country music singer named Gene Austin. When he had some success in that role, Austin offered Parker the job of his manager, which he took on the condition that he received 25% of the singer's earnings. And thus begins the continuing pattern of Tom Parker. In 1948, he took part in the election campaign of Jimmy Davis, former country music star who was running for governor of Louisiana. Davis ended up getting elected, and to reward Parker for his work, Davis gave him the honorary rank of colonel in the Louisiana State Militia. Let me be clear. Louisiana does not have a standing militia. There is no Louisiana Army. So this is just a strictly honorary thing, but he kept it. Tom Parker kept it and just kept on referring to himself directly in third person as the colonel.
I seem to know this a certain fast food chicken chain that has a similar founder. But
yep. I was just going to say with almost the exact same amount of military service. I was just going to say it's a Colonel Sanders It's a Colonel Sanders Colonel, not a Colonel Flagg. Or I would say one of the other ones. One of the other ones. All right, so his new rank and nickname obtained, Parker went back to managing various other smaller musical acts for the next few years until he heard of a young singer named Elvis Presley. He was a lead singer of a trio called the Blue Moon Boys, one of the pioneers of rockabilly music. So basically, once he heard Presley, he was like, okay, this I need to get involved in.
Yeah.
So basically, over the next couple of years, Parker wheedled his way around some record companies and Presley's management at the time, until 1956, where Presley was finally convinced to sign a contract making Parker his own manager. Once that position was in place, Parker went to work, arranging for Presley to appear on popular TV shows like The Ed Sullivan Show, which, again, he brought out his gyrating hips and whatnot, and that made him a household name, either with teenage girls screaming about him, or also somewhat more socially conservative people also screaming about him in a much more negative way. However, at the same time, he signed a merchandising deal with like a film merchandiser. So basically, while he's on there, he put Elvis's name and face on as many things as humanly possible. Like within the same year, he put out 78 different Elvis products.
Wow. Didn't he also end up doing merch also against Elvis as well?
He created an I Hate Elvis pin and sold an I Hate Elvis pin.
So smart. It's pretty smart, I have to say.
Oh, no, it's brilliant. He is business. I would just say business and promotion wise, Colonel Tom Parker's a brilliant, brilliant dude.
Yeah, I can't say I like him.
Oh, but, God, no. I would say you're not supposed. I assure you, you're not supposed to.
Then continue. You're making me feel the correct way.
Oh, no, absolutely. I would just say you're following me perfectly. Presley had also indicated to Parker that he wanted to be in films. And Parker had the distinct realization that, hey, if he's staying on a studio lot and then just sort of like recording, musicals, that's a lot cheaper than sending him all around the United States on tours. So basically in that whole, I want to make as much money from this man as humanly possible, Parker wanted Presley to concentrate on Hollywood rather than touring. So basically, he tried to put Presley into as many musical films as possible, therefore just using the soundtracks as additional income / basically filling out his record obligation to RCA, which was his record company at the time. So basically, for 7 years, from 1961 to 1968, Presley had no live performances and interacted very little with his fans. He basically went to the studio lot, back to his house, the studio lot, back to his house, and repeated for 7 years. I would say, and again, they sold pretty well initially because, he's a household name. But it's the 60s, and the appearance of acts like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, well, Elvis was no longer the brand new rock and roll kid on the block. There were other people in there. So Parker started panicking, demanding that the films now be made much more cheaply since he was getting less profits at the box office. So basically, kind of in the later part of the 60s, Elvis got shittier and shittier films just because Parker wanted to keep his lifestyle as it is. He also renegotiated his manager's contract with Presley in 1967, which ended with Parker now getting 50% of all of Presley's earnings, and it gets better.
Ooh.
Parker took over all of the non-music related items for Presley in addition, so Presley got nothing from anything that wasn't his music.
Wow.
So really from 1970 onwards, Parker was making more money off of Elvis than Elvis was.
That I did not know. That's quite something.
It's insane. I was just going to say, and Elvis was apparently happy to do it because he thought, well, basically because Parker just tried to keep him as separate from other acts as humanly possible. He thought that, 50% is good because other acts were paying 70% to their managers, which was not true.
Wow.
And Parker spent a not insignificant amount of his time and energy trying to keep Elvis unaware of that.
It's very conscientious.
But yeah, I would say, again, just kind of like with the films no longer selling, Parker had a distinct realization of, we need to get this kid back out on tour. We need to get him back out on tour. So again, he just sort of had an idea of, okay, Elvis reunites with his old band before he was sort of like a solo artist. He plays his hits and he goes out on tour.
Is this like more of the sweaty Elvis on stage kissing women in the crowd?
This is
era?
very much at that point. This is right at the start. This is right at the start of the binge eating and the prescription pill addiction.
I just was watching a video about it. It's a performance of his before the binge eating. Like he's still relatively fit, but he's clearly like it's very 70s Elvis.
Oh yeah,
and he's just going across the front of the stage, kissing every woman in the front row, one after the other.
That is about when the divorce proceedings were happening as well.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, but yes, that's also probably one of the things. Yeah, there was very much kind of in the early 70s. Elvis was also trying to get a lot of money to start up a divorce settlement for Priscilla, who I would say Priscilla Presley, his wife.
Oh, wow. Yes.
And kind of on that, like basically, because Elvis now just basically told Parker, okay, I need money. Colonel Parker made a decision that would literally come back to legally haunt him, in that he sold off all of the rights to Elvis's music at that point, like back to RCA Records, for $5 million.
Wow.
So from 1973 on, Elvis didn't get a thing. It just literally was only his touring revenue from there on in. So why he looked basically so sweaty, so haunted all throughout the 70s? Number 1, binge eating. Number 2, prescription pill addiction. Number 3, he could not stop touring or he'd go broke.
It's quite sad.
Oh no, I was just going to say absolutely 100%. Basically when Presley died from heart disease in 1977, Parker got right back to work on it. He convinced Elvis's father to sign over control of Presley's career in death exclusively to him, and with that new power, reset up a licensing operation so that Elvis memorial merchandise would keep on flowing.
Oh my God.
Yup.
This guy.
Yup. And as a result, most of Elvis's posthumous earnings went to Parker rather than his estate and child. A court case investigating Parker's handlings of Presley's estate found that he'd worked against his client's interests in life, and that Parker's 50% deal with Elvis was extortionate compared to the industry average of 15 to 20, and the case ended up being settled out of court in 1983, with the Presley estate paying him $2 million, basically in exchange for all the rights to everything Elvis, and for 5 years, he does not have any dealings with anything Elvis Presley related.
Well, where can you sign me up? I need a manager.
Just going to say, solid 50. I'm just going to say, I can help you with a solid 50% and likeness to your face, music, and potentially soul.
Well, on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, 50-50 is a good lifeline. So maybe
100%.
Maybe the Colonel wasn't that far off there.
No, I mean, it seemed to. Well, I'd love to say it seemed to have worked for him. Actually, no. Apparently, a lot of Elvis's Las Vegas residencies at the Hilton hotels. Apparently, it turned out that coincidentally, they seemed to be started up right after Parker had lost about $20 million at the tables in the Hilton International. So there's a not insignificant portion of it that's like Elvis was basically getting used to pay off Parker's debts. And thus ends the story of the terrible, terrible, terrible person who ran Elvis's life.
Well, thank you for that uplifting and pleasant story of partnership.
There might need to be a minor key adjustment for this now, just something a little more ominous.
Do. I'm trying. I don't know. I'm trying to, or maybe it would be closer to that kind of downward.
Yeah,
thing.
Just a sad little. I would say just a sad little tremolo outwards.
Yes,
I love it. All right, Craig, I've thoroughly depressed you. What have you brought to thoroughly depress and or uplift me?
Well, I actually, because I came here with a film-related tidbit of information.
Mm-hmm.
But as you were talking about music and the late, in the 60s and all that, it actually made me think of another music story that's really, really interesting. And I'll go ahead and kind of just, drift through it as best as I can, because I'm
please,
kind of telling it off the top of my head.
I'm here for it.
So there's an artist named Don Van Vliet that I'm a big fan of. He's better known as Captain Beefheart. And
okay,
yeah, and he's he was very active in the 60s and 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And then retired in the early 80s to pursue painting until he passed away of MS. See, I can be depressing a bit as well.
No, absolutely. I would say, listen, that's what we're here for. Thoroughly
I need to sprinkle a little bit.
Absolutely.
just before we get to, it's not like the story is very uplifting, but so basically, they have a kind of a landmark record named Trout Mask Replica. And it was released, I believe, in 1969. And it's kind of a avant-garde blues experimental fuckfest of...
I was just going to say, Craig, I can't believe you're just reading off the album cover. An avant-garde experimental blues fuckfest.
That's pretty much what I can kind of describe it as, and it was recorded in a way just as, I guess, bizarre as the music on the record. So Captain Beefheart was childhood friends with Frank Zappa, who is another. I would say another adept person musically.
I was just going to say an adept musical eccentric, one could argue.
Yes. They're both. It's quite surprising that these two people were childhood friends. Well, I guess it's not surprising that they, got together because they're both very eccentric. But it's just surprising that life made it that they would, know each other. That two people this eccentric would be in the same circle is quite a lot of energy. And so basically, when they asked Frank Zappa, who had a record at the time, a record label, pardon me, and he asked Frank Zappa if he could have full creative freedom on a record, and Frank Zappa said yes, it'll be low budget, but I'll give you full creative freedom. And so the band went to practice these very bizarre songs in a house together, kind of like a Manson family setup, for I think about 9 to 12 months. They were just the five of them in this house, practicing the music about, I think, like 10 to 14 hours a day. And they were surviving off a small bowl of soybeans per day as food because they were all broke. Captain Beefheart at this time was probably in his early 30s. And the band that he recruited were all very young guys. I think like between probably like 18 to 25.
Okay.
And they were all just, from random backgrounds, all very interested in blues music and already fans of Beefheart at that point, who had made his name as a very, I guess, like respected blues artist. But I kind of lost myself.
They were all in the house.
Yes, they're all
soybeans.
Surviving off soybeans.
Mm-hmm.
And playing music all the time. And how these songs were written were at a piano. Don, Captain Beefheart, would sit down with John French, who was the drummer of the band, and play musical fragments and record them on tape. And every once in a while, Don would be like, I like this part, I like this part, I like this part. That's going to be the guitar part, that's going to be the bass part. And these were all kind of created within the same mind frame, but without really being thought of together in terms of like orchestration or harmony. So you'd have these parts that are kind of completely all disconnected from each other and polyrhythmic, but then each musician would take these charts put together by the drummer, learn them, and then learn to play them together as a band. But there's no common beat. There's no common key between any of the instruments. There's no 1, 2, 3, 4. It can be one instrument's playing in 12/8, the other's playing in 3/4, and at one point they're just going to meet up, and then the drummer's calculating all this to create a song. And Don being Don is just, a very kind of arrogant, eccentric, difficult person. Mm-hmm. Doesn't practice any of this. He just kind of gives this music to the drummer. The drummer takes care of the arrangements. The band then, break their back learning this. And then Don will come in and be like singing some poetry that he had written over the music. And so a lot of the songs end up being kind of these insane backing tracks with experimental fusion with like familiar blues playing. And then you'll have Don just screaming, very abstract poetry on top of it. And somehow still singing in key and feeling like this is an idea that was not just thrown at the wall, It's a very interesting album. And it was made, as I said, with all these members just locked in a house over a year, and then recorded in a single day. They recorded all the backing tracks, all the band, because they were so well rehearsed after that whole year. They just came in, boom, recorded the whole album. And then I think Don recorded vocals overdubbed over the band over the next week or so after. And he was even recording his vocals without even listening to the music and just listening to the bleed come out through the door or the studio wall, to have just that kind of, it's always just, everything's a little off, you'll see, but at the same time, incredibly tight. So a very interesting album. I highly recommend it. It's very difficult, but Trout Mask Replica. And its sequel, Lick My Decals Off, Baby. And any of his 70s or late 80s stuff. Early 80s, like Dock at the Radar Station and Ice Cream for Crow is very good as well. And mid 70s has some great stuff in there. You have Shiny Beast, Bat Chain Puller. That's a very good album. And you have some and Clear Spot and Spotlight Kid. These are all, I'm pretty much just naming his discography at this point, but
that is incredible. First of all, thank you for bringing that. Secondly, I am astonished that the band did not come together and murder him.
Well, okay. So that's what's special with this story, is that it's almost like a cult, the band, and Don's kind of like the leader.
Mhm.
And, he was very paranoid of, the band turning against him, people conspiring, like, borderline. I think he even said to John French is the drummer and arranger on Trout
Mhm.
Mask. He said, I think that Don confided to him that he was schizophrenic one day, but this is not confirmed or
Mhm.
anything. It's just kind of like a thing Don said. And if you listen to those albums, Don says a lot of things. If I may quote one of the lines on the album that opens
Oh,
the
please do.
song Pacao Cadaver, it's a squid eating dough in a polyethylene bag is fast and bulbous. Got me? That's the that's the kind of poetry you'll get on
That's
this album.
I was just gonna say, I think that's the t-shirt quote for this episode, I think.
Oh, but getting back to the band killing him or wanting to, surprisingly they kept on. A couple members left after Trout Mask because they were uncomfortable with the idea of being locked in a house with a crazy man and being abused and physically assaulted by him on a weekly basis.
Fuck, yeah.
If they didn't practice enough. So a couple people left after that experience, but most of them stayed, surprisingly.
Okay.
Because Don was that respected in terms of his musical ideas, at least in whatever his audience was at the time. And musicians were kind of fascinated with what he was doing. So they would take it to be part of that experience. And, in the most messed up way, listening to that album, you kind of realize that, like that couldn't have been made in a normal, peaceful environment. There's something, obviously the environment it was made in brought that music forward, I think. And that sucks, but we're really lucky to have it. I keep diverging from why the band hated him. So eventually,
the physical abuse with the crazy person and being locked in the house.
Exactly.
Yeah, I would say, is there more?
So the Lick My Decals Off Baby album, the sequel. Well, I keep calling it the sequel. It's just the next album. After that album, it was getting a little hard to make money because the music was getting so bizarre and outlandish. So Don was like, I'm tired of living off my parents' money in my mid-30s, and the band all live off their parents' money as well. And so they're like, let's start making some more popular music. And so they went back to more, still interesting arrangements and bizarre turns, but much more, closer to what you would hear as some mid-70s blues rock. And eventually the band got so bored with these ideas that and of not getting paid that they all ditched him at the exact same time in the mid-70s. So then he went on to make some really terrible albums. And then in the late 70s, I guess he learned his lesson a bit of maybe respecting people a bit more and got a new band together. And from what I've heard, that band doesn't have like major complaints about his attitude. So I'm happy to report that he might have changed.
Oh my God. I would say that is an incredible story. I now want to listen to this album more than anything.
As soon as you turn on the song Frownland, which is the opening of the album, I think it's immediate. I love that song because it kind of just it just throws you right into what this album's about. It's just gonna, exactly what you're getting into.
I would say it's either that I would just listen. I appreciate a piece of art where it's pardon the phrasing. The shitter get off the pot moment is 3 seconds in.
I think like 5 seconds in, as soon as Don starts shouting, you're gonna be like, okay,
this is what's happening.
This is what's happening.
All right. Thank you for bringing that, Craig.
Yeah. It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
All right. So we've told each other a lot of truths, and Craig, you have, again, as previously stated, listened to this podcast more than anyone else on this planet.
I have.
How do you think you are at telling truths from lies?
Judging by the lies and truths you've told in the past episodes, I'm going to be pretty bad because you're pretty good at choosing weird ass lies and truth.
Oh, well, you are. I was just going to say, first of all, you're very kind. Second of all, that's going to change. I would say that's going to continue. All right. So, again, as I would say, as newcomers to the podcast may not know, I tend to end these episodes with a rousing game of 2 truths and a lie. I was just going to say, again, Craig's going to have three different statements given to them. And by and large, if he can tell me which one's the lie, he gets a point. He has option of 3 different points. So, Craig, what category would you like first? Sports facts that have very little to do with sports, nature, or stay dead, damn it?
Stay dead, damn it.
All right, stay dead, damn it. All right. Well, as you might be able to tell, these are facts and information with a very particular bent to them.
I can imagine.
All right, statement the first. Polish archaeologists uncovered the remains of a woman who was seemingly thought to be a vampire near the city of Pien in Poland. How did they know this? Well, there was a sickle placed right in front of her neck, so if the body would, in fact, rise from the dead, the head would be lopped off, in theory ending the threat. Additionally, they found a padlock on her big toe, which I guess acted as a level of security. One of the reasons that the threat seemed to be considered was that the skeleton of the woman had a protruding front tooth, which in a vampire-fearful town in Poland, apparently that's enough. Statement the second. On the small island of Lazaretto Nuovo, just off the Venice Lagoon, there's a body found that was claimed to have been a vampire in life that was killed and buried with a brick in her mouth to keep from being able to feast again. Apparently, one of the ways that people determined whether or not a dead body was in fact a resting vampire in disguise was to see if the burial shroud that was placed over their face had been eaten away around the mouth. Modern science now says that sometimes burial shrouds are just infected from bacteria from the mouth, which, given nothing else to eat, it'll just eat away at the shroud around there, so therefore all you can see are just sort of somewhat desiccated corpse with very extended teeth. And, number 3, one of the tried and true methods of keeping the recently deceased, or those who are suspected of being a vampire, or even have been killed by one, is by use of a mort safe. Most commonly used in England and Scotland, these were hardy cages made out of wrought iron and stone that were placed above a new grave, to ensure that if there was any attempt for the deceased to leave their grave, the cage would fall down into the pit, holding the vampire and or undead in place until the dawn would come, ending the threat.
Sorry, I wasn't listening. Do you mind restarting?
Joke's on you, I'll do it.
No. So there's 2 truths.
Yep,
here,
2 truths, 1 lie.
I'm gonna be fully honest with you because you deserve that.
I appreciate that.
I recently read about this the skeleton with the blade around.
Okay, no, fair
neck.
enough.
So I know that's true.
Oh, absolutely.
We clearly are on the same.
We're on the same weird websites,
the same
man.
internet.
We're on the same weird websites.
Exactly. This is why I was so excited to work with you on this podcast. So I mean, the brick in the mouth just seems so intense. I don't even know how that's possible. And the cage seems like something dumb humans would think of doing. The brick in the mouth just seems so overkill. But then again, humans are very capable of overkill. So it's a hard one. I'm going to go with the brick in the mouth is a lie. And that the cage is true, because that just seems like the most true thing ever.
All right, you've locked in the brick in the mouth as the lie. Unfortunately, you are not yet on the board. Brick in the mouth is true.
Oh my God. Of course it is.
Again, like one of the things that would just sort of like in theory was going to stop a vampire from eating things is if you buried them with something in their mouth. Just something.
That's actually a very good point. I should have thought of that.
But yeah, no, also I would say there are actual mort safes kind of like in Scotland and England, but it's mostly to deter grave robbers because kind of in the late 18th century, there's a real high, real big market for recently deceased corpses that can be sold to medical schools. So they've literally They literally put a fucking cage over top of it, just like, yeah, no. Don't steal this body.
Well, I guess we have Leonardo da Vinci to thank for that.
Oh.
It might have been. Well, didn't he do grave robbing to?
God, there's been
to inspect like the first, like, you know, the guy in the Da Vinci photo that's in the circle. I don't know how that's called again. The naked man that's in a circle.
It's gonna bug me, but I know what you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah, that's a grave robbed corpse.
Is it?
Yes, I am serious.
Oh, no. To be clear, I believe you. I just had no idea. Now I need to write this down. I need to write this down. I now need to do this.
That's a man. It's a man robbed.
Viltruvian man.
There you go.
So that's the first one. Greg, you still have 2 more chances to get on the board. Let's throw another topic in there.
Oh, go ahead.
All right. You've got nature. You've got sports facts that have very little to do with sports, and much ado about number 2.
Excuse me?
Much ado about number 2. Oh, no. When I wrote it down, I saved it. I got over and I poured myself a drink. That is how pleased I was with myself.
So I would do nature, I guess.
All righty then. So, statement the first.
Yes.
Pandas can and will fake a pregnancy for better care. A Chinese panda named A Hin was believed to be pregnant. She was showing signs like an increased appetite and overall less movement. And zookeepers ensured that she was well taken care of with extra food, a single room with air conditioning, and more. But then after an ultrasound on the panda, they realized that she wasn't pregnant and that she was actually just deliberately faking out the zookeepers to get better treatment and more treats.
Wow. I believe that.
Statement number 2. It is illegal to own a single guinea pig in Switzerland. Because they are Because they're herd animals, they can get severely depressed when all alone. So in an effort to enhance social rights for animals, Switzerland officially considers owning a single guinea pig an act of animal cruelty.
Well, look at that.
For those who are already single guinea pig owners before the law was passed in 2008, there are government-subsidized rent-a-guinea-pig businesses that can provide the guinea pig with a friend.
That's very sweet, you know. That's very nice.
All right, and statement the third. I know, it's adorable, isn't it? Like, just like, you can rent a guinea pig for your buddy.
It's cool that their government can get together on those kinds of issues.
100%.
You know?
Statement the third. Snakes will use their shed skin as a decoy in order to trick their prey. One of the main reasons that snakes try to shed their skin all in one piece is so that they can lure their prey into a false sense of security, thinking they've spotted the snake. The real snake, hidden nearby, waits for the prey to relax, then springs into action.
Okay.
All right. So, Craig, which one's the lie?
I think I know which one's the lie.
Okay.
I'm going to go with the snake.
All right. Any particular reason therein, or just doesn't sound right?
It's because the panda... I believe in, you know, the intelligence of animals. So I think that would be, you know, you could train an animal to, you know, respect any kind of attitude that will get them more food.
100%.
You know? So I'm sure it can learn that. And the second one was the guinea pigs in Switzerland. That's just, that sounds absurdly true. And yeah. The snake one's just, it's a mundane fact. It doesn't speak to me in any way. It has I have no attachment to that fun fact. It's a boring fact. So I'm going to say it's a lie because you only bring the fun stuff.
Oh, first of all, you are very kind. And secondly, you are on the board, Mr. Murdock.
Yes.
That one is the full-on lie.
I'm very, very, I don't know, proud?
No, proud. I would say proud will work. Proud will work. Absolutely. You might have a chance to get up to second place overall.
Wow. Oh, did someone get them all right? And I missed it in the editing?
Technically, Nathan got a 2-pointer because I had 3 truths and 1 lie.
Oh, yeah. But Nathan's I know that you guys have a thing going on where you were like sneaking him in the answers before the interview.
You're right. So I should have cut the video feed.
Yeah, that's the thing.
That was the problem.
I'm not going to leak it, obviously. I'm going to keep this between only you and
Absolutely.
me. But just know that I know
our
that.
Our thousands of cheering fans it'd break their hearts. It'd break their hearts.
It would. I mean, hey. Anyway, I'm just going to keep that between us.
Solidly appreciated. All right, Craig. See if you can get that second point. You've got asshole animals, sports facts that have very little to do with sports and much ado about number 2.
What do you mean number 2?
Like
pooing?
Oh, number 2 is in poop.
You know what? As someone with Crohn's disease, let's go with that.
Fair enough. That was not a thing that occurred to me at all.
At first I was like, oh, he's bringing like shit facts for the Crohn's guy. That's nice of him, you know.
Nope. I was just gonna say, literally never once occurred to me.
What? Explain your IBS. Anyway, go ahead. I'm very curious.
Oh, God. All right. Statement the first. During the Battle of Hastings in 1066 in England, one of the methods used by King Harold, the defending King of England at the time, to try and slow the invasion by William the Conqueror, was to give many of his subjects slightly spoiled meat. Given that for a lot of his subjects during wartime, they hadn't had a significant amount of meat in a long time, so they happily took the food. You know, it's the king being generous. Why would you look into that? However, in the way that slightly spoiled meat worked with digestive systems, there were slightly explosive results of the pooping variety. The amount of fecal matter in the streets actually created something of a biohazard for the soldiers of William the Conqueror, who would often leave villages afflicted as such untouched.
When they just come through town?
Just like, nope, absolutely not. Going around.
Wow.
Statement the second. There were, in fact, toilets used in medieval castles. However, instead of the traditional use a bowl of water and then flush that we're used to today, it was often a small room in the castle that was either slightly hanging over the castle walls so that the, refuse was left outside the castle, or fell into a moat, which was used on the outside of the castle. When there wasn't a moat built, often a courtyard, a bailey, or a convenient cliff face was used.
You know, I know that one's true because when you have Crohn's disease, you start making a mental map of every bathroom you've ever been in, and you keep track of those bathrooms for future use.
Oh, absolutely.
So, you know, when I visit cities, I go to Toronto, I know every bathroom in that city.
This is good.
I go to Montreal, I know every bathroom. You want to hit me up for restaurant recommendations, bathroom recommendations?
I was just going to say, do you have a star system, or is it just location-based?
It's mostly location-based because everyone knows if you need a mental map of where to shit, you will go anywhere. So the quality is not the obviously, I keep quality in mind. But in an emergency scenario, you're not looking for luxury; you're looking for utility.
No, absolutely. No, that's a very fair point. It's not a deal breaker if it's a 2 out of 5 star bathroom. It's just like, no,
yes,
needs to be done.
And all that to say, so having this mental map, in case I ever had to time travel back to the medieval times, I'd researched like where can I go to the bathroom there, and they said that castles have some cliff hanging bathrooms. So I'm very aware of
this. You
this.
could literally leave things on a cliffhanger. Thank you. I'm here all week.
You're welcome.
All right. I was just going to say, and the third one. I would say the third one.
Yes.
In July of 1184, Henry VI, King of Germany, held a meeting of his princes and generals to mediate a fight between one of his nobles and the representative of a Roman Catholic Church. Bless you.
Pardon me.
The meeting was held in the Petersburg Citadel in Erfurt, one of the most well-defended citadels in Germany at the time. Because, you know, if you're the king, you are absolutely going to take the biggest possible castle.
Yes.
These Hoftags, as the meeting of this type were called, happened very rarely. So rarely, in fact, that the second floor of the castle where they were having the meeting gave way under the combined weight of all the nobles and their retinues. And the floor collapsed all the way through the latrine cesspit in the basement. About 60 of the attendees ended up drowning in the effluent in an event thereafter known as Erfurter Latrinensturs, or the Erfurt Latrine Fall.
That's a nice name. Ermin Tremunden?
Erfurter Latrinensturs. I was just going to say, I was just going to say, it took me 5 times, but I finally got the pronunciation.
That's a good dog name idea, I think.
Erfurter or Latrinensturs or Erfurter Latrinensturs. Just all in one.
The whole thing. Just the whole thing. Yeah.
Difficult if you want them to come back, though. Erfurter Latrinensturs, by the time you finish that sentence, dog's halfway across a field.
Exactly. Adds to the challenge. Also, is that a cat I heard in back?
That is indeed a cat you have heard in the background.
Oh, wow. Guess you have a dog and a cat.
We have a dog and 2 cats.
Holy. And they get along great?
There's sort of an angry triangle involved. The 2 cats don't get along, and one of the cats and the dog sort of have a bit of an indifference towards each other. But the new cat
feels like one of the cats is an asshole.
Well, she's 10 years old and tends to pick fights. Well, not so much pick fights, but she's just absolutely annoyed with the 2 1.5-year-old animals that are just around.
Oh, okay. This is all making sense now. Okay.
She's lived a life. She's tired of it.
I understand.
All right. So, Craig, Battle of Hastings, in which the king fed his subjects spoiled meat, medieval castle toilets, or the Erfurter Latrinensturz. Which one's the lie?
I'm going to go with the Latrinensturz because
I couldn't quite get the pronunciation.
because I think you camouflaged a fact with a very convincing name in another language.
All right. So
because if I were going to make something up, I'd be like, oh, it's the official, and then give it some, Latin name or something. And then you'd be like, oh yeah, that's official as hell.
Just like, absolutely. I was just going to say it's in a different language. What could possibly be? All right.
People don't lie in other languages.
I was just going to say, I can barely manage in English. But all right, so your thought is the king. I would say the Erfurter Latrinensturz is the lie.
I think so.
Oh
my god!
Unfortunately, I was just gonna say my inability to pronounce German names is in fact the legitimate thing. It was in fact King Harold feeding his subjects spoiled meat. That's the lie.
I believe that.
I was just going to say, and I don't think it would have, given the general state of England in, the 11th century, I don't think it would have even phased them. Just, that's a lot of poop. Onwards.
Yeah, you're right. They're probably like, oh, that's manure. Let's put that in the oat. Let's put that in the oat fields
that'll make the food grow better.
It'll make everything grow and taste better.
Yep. Ugh.
Well, great stuff. Thanks for that.
No. Thank you. I was just going to say, I would say 1 out of 3. That ain't bad.
What?
1 out of 3
it actually is pretty bad.
No.
To be
Listen,
honest.
you are tied for second with 2 other people. So you're tied for second. That's what we're going to concentrate on here.
I'm tied for second.
You're tied for second.
But are the second people the last as well?
Let's not talk about that. That too much.
I think there's only 2 rankings at the moment.
At the moment, maybe, but that could change. I've got plans for other guests. They could go over.
Either way,
we don't know.
I could easily just re-record my answers to be correct and then take a correct from the prior episode, edit it in, and then just mess around the whole thing.
It's a thing that has just occurred to me now, but absolutely, you could go 3. You could go 3 for if you really, really wanted to concentrate on that. You totally could.
Also, I'm realizing that I said that Nathan had rigged the game, and now I'm fully saying I'm going to rig the entire episode. Mm-hmm. So maybe I should, keep my mouth shut a bit.
It's all good. Here, tell you what. Let's make this a little easier. Craig, congratulations, you got 1 out of 3. Craig, congratulations, you got 2 out of 3. Craig, congratulations, you got 3 out of 3. Well done.
Perfect. Thank you.
There we are.
That'll make it much easier for me. I appreciate it.
Glad to have been of service. Oh, God. All right. I was just going to say, first of all, thank you for being on here, Craig. Do you have anything you want to plug?
Not really. I guess, I want to plug you. You're a great guy. You're a great host. And I really just appreciate working on the podcast with you. Just to let everyone know, Braden and I are childhood friends. Our parents are friends, and but we grew up in different parts of the country. He grew up in Alberta, and I grew up in Quebec. So obviously didn't see each other much growing up, but we reconnected, and I saw that he was doing this podcast, and we just decided to link up over it, and it's been a really nice time reconnecting. So thank you for having me on, and thank you for doing this.
Oh, God, please. Thank you. Because, again, I was a one-man show for the first season, and that aged me. So thank you I would say it again, thank you very much for, reconnecting. He's an excellent person. And if you need an audio engineer, so I would say it's somewhere in Montreal, hit him up.
Yeah, my website is craigmurdock.com. Pretty simple. CraigMurdock.com. It's not very updated because I work in a studio now, so I don't need to update my freelance website as much.
Oh, fair.
But, that's where I am. I work in Montreal. So, that's it.
He does indeed. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Craig. And well, oh God, this is usually the time where I have a pithy ending. Craig, can you edit in a pithy ending?
What does that mean? A pithy ending?
God damn it. All right, never mind. That seems to be a no.
See, my French Canadian side.
Yes,
I don't have an accent, but the vocabulary is shortened a little bit.
Listen, you know one more language than I do, so that I can entirely accept that. Long story short, Craig, thank you very much for being on the show. We'll definitely have you back on for the what? No, you explain. Tournament of Champions. Once I have enough guests.
I would love
Once I have enough guests on to actually make a tournament bracket.
Amazing. Well, I could be in the 1 out of 3 champion team.
There we go. See, I was
with all the other second
sort of
placers,
like an NCAA sort of like Elite 8, Final 4, whatever the championship one's called. It might just be the championship. Can you tell I don't sports much?
Hey, it's totally fine. I'm happy I didn't choose the sports category because you clearly don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, again, all I need to do is just desperately hope the people on the internet. Maybe that would have just made the lie better. Because I would have had just no idea. Just shrug.
No, totally.
All right.
Thank you so much, Braden.
No worries. Thank you very much for coming on, Craig. I would say have a fantastic evening, and we'll talk. Well, I'll at the very least talk to you all in a couple weeks, and Craig will make me sound magnificent. Right, Craig? All right. Well, have a good night, everybody. Bye now.